gummy bear.
Big potential gaming disaster, and just how successful is the Switch 2? It's going to be a good one because we have Jason Fanelli on the show. Jason, how are you doing?
Recovering. That's how I'm doing. It was a crazy, crazy weekend of video games. Video games definitely happened this past
Yeah, you cannot
weekend.
deny that they happened. There's no denying that.
There was very many video games, but a lot of great things to talk about. I will have, as I was saying in the pre-show, 15 previews across 3 different websites.
Hardest working man in video games, everybody.
Stop it. No, I'm not. That's obviously Phil Spencer. But yeah, so 15 across 3 different websites. Got a lot of cool stuff we can talk about. One embargo just went up as we began, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. You know what? Let's let me see here. Should we get anything out of the way? You know what? No, let's just talk about it now. We'll do the spiel here in a second. Oh
Sure.
yeah, we could talk about Capcom stuff. So Capcom had a little bit of a presence, and by a little bit I mean the biggest presence at Summer Game Fest. They definitely were like the anchor, right? They kind of made the whole thing make sense at a certain point. It was all, I mean, I loved so many games I saw there, but at a certain point, it's like everyone else bringing out their games kind of is justified by Capcom going, and you'll get to see Resident Evil as well.
Yes.
Makes everyone's trip a little bit more worth it. And we did get to see Resident Evil Requiem. I think both you and I got to watch it played in a video. There were some people that got to go hands-on with it. They played the same thing that we saw, so it's
okay.
You know, kind of for purposes of I don't know, do they still do the Judges Week stuff? I have no idea. But yeah, we saw that. We saw Pragmata, and we saw some Onimusha. Where do you want to start? Let's start with Onimusha, maybe?
Yes, I thought that. See, at first, when that first trailer came out, I thought they were going to go full like Dark Souls Onimusha with this, and I kind of worried about that because FromSoft and I don't really get along.
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more FromSoft, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, not much. You still have I love the whole countering thing when they showed him just standing there surrounded by enemies and you're just holding the block button and he's going like he's blocking here, he's blocking behind him, that was awesome.
Yeah, cool.
But no, I really liked what I saw there. I like the combat, I like the story that they're telling. I like that really sleazy looking dude that comes after you right at the end there. Can't wait to kick his ass. I'm very much digging what they showed us of that, to the point where I'm a little more confident in it after my initial potential FromSoft style worries. I really, really dug it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it looked really stylish. You're right. That sort of flamboyant enemy had just like a really awesome style to him. Really made me want to get in there and be like, okay, I can't wait to see what else is going on with these enemies. Just a lot of character, a lot of personality. And then you're right. It looked fantastic. I'm always gonna kind of pop when Mifune shows up in anything, and then basing this character's visual style on Toshiro Mifune, I think is right. That looked awesome. Just all around, like I always had an appreciation for Onimusha from a distance. I've never really played much of those games. Seeing this made me want to go back and like check out that Onimusha 2 remaster that they released recently, and I think there's a collection of 1 and 2 on the Switch. I'm like, that'd be a fun thing to have on the Switch too if I can make some time for it. But
yeah,
I'm definitely looking forward to this one. It's Onimusha Way of the Sword. That's the name of the game, I believe.
Yeah, that is the full name, Way of the Sword.
Yeah, so it looked really promising, looked really cool. And then we got to play Pragmata.
It exists.
It exists. It's a real game, which I'm a little disappointed by. I always love having our deep downs. I always just love having a game I can always joke about. Hey, that never came out. Isn't that funny? And you know, I'm talking to people and like I bring up Pragmata and I'm like, it's not like Deep Down. And Brad Shoemaker was immediately like, yeah, Deep Down. It's like, yeah, isn't that like? He's like, that's what I always think of too. And it's like, yeah, right. Isn't that the kind of thing that you enjoy having? But we played it, and I thought this thing is really cool. I really, you were telling me about it, and then I went to go play it. And I was kind of like following what you're saying. I'm like, okay, so there's like a puzzle mechanic in the combat, and that's exactly what it is. There's a hacking mini game that you sort of need to do to bring down the shields of these, automaton enemies that have this digital shield around them, and you have like this little girl android on your back that has magical powers that can bring down that shield. Basically, she just hacks them, And it's a little hacky mini game where you're moving. It's kind of like a slide puzzle, not really, but you're just trying to do a pathway through this grid. And the more blue tiles you move the thing through to get to the green tile, the more you'll take down their shields. It's really basic, but I think it's a really cool thing to sort of make the combat feel even more engaging. I was into it. How did you find Pragmata?
I agree 100%. I feel like without that, it's just a generic third-person shooter, right? So to add this little extra wrinkle, and like as they're approaching you, if you're messing up this puzzle, it gets really, really tense. Like when they're in your face and you're right at the end and it finally breaks, especially with that one big guy who just kind of like jumped on you when he first showed up. Right before I went in there, and maybe this sort of framed my reference, I saw Alyssa Mercante, who said to me, it's third-person shooting, but there's going to be a Helldivers element, and you're not going to expect it. And essentially, it's calling for reinforcements, right? You have to press the right buttons in the right sequence. Only this time, you're following the path. Triangle is up, X is down, circle is right, square is left, and you're trying to follow that whole thing.
And it was cool because it's like there would be some like these gray cells that you couldn't go through, and they would create just a little bit of a roadblock. So you'd look at it really quick. It's like, wait, so if I go down and I sort of spiral my path all the way around to avoid that, I could still get all of these blue tiles and then wrap back around to finish on the green tile. And it's like, oh, I just felt a little clever, which is a great feeling to have in the middle of combat.
Yeah, and I wonder how complicated that's going to get. I could see bosses having either a bigger grid or more of those blocking nodes, so you have to follow the set path, right? But one of those things where, like, I think of like one of those stages in a 2D platformer where you have to like duck underneath to dodge the things that are always coming from one direction. So like maybe the blue node is down here, so you go down, you scoot, you wait, and you go back up, and and then that like that kind of challenge. There's definitely ways to iterate on it to make it seem less monotonous as you get through the rest of the game. So I can see where they can build on it. I kind of, as long as the story's interesting, I kind of like their vision. Like I'm not like, oh wow, what the hell's going on with Pragmata? I'm like, okay, Pragmata, I see what you're doing here. Like pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that first trailer forever ago, 5+ years ago, I was like, well, it looks like they're trying to be a little Kojima. And now not that I don't feel that way anymore. Now it's just cool looking sci-fi game with a combat system that has just a little salt put on top to make it a little bit more flavorful, which is maybe all I really need. Because I enjoy shooting in a video game. Give me a little bit more to do and I'll be happy. Yep, that's right. That turns out to be exactly the case.
And weird Capcom is good Capcom. The last time we got weird Capcom, we got Kunitsugami, and that's a great game.
Exactly.
So more of
They've
that.
been on a roll with those. Yeah, I mean, even Exoprimal, I really enjoyed. That's like a really good 7 out of 10. And like I'll take more of that. And I think Pragmata has a good chance of being even better than that. Although if it's in that 7 to 8 out of 10 range, what are numbers? Who cares? But 7 to 8 out of 10 in that range, I'll be like, oh, fantastic! A new Capcom game that was pretty fun and interesting. And then hey, we're still getting the Resident Evils and Monster Hunters. And speaking of Resident Evil Requiem, the Q is a 9. It was scary, huh? The Q is a 9. I believe that's the subtitle.
I think I saw you right after I got out of there. And the way I could describe it best, that trailer, was clenching my ass for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. I was sitting in the theater going, and I can prove it. If you go to the RE Games Instagram, they posted a montage of fan reactions. Those motherfuckers were recording us as we were watching this.
Oh,
and
no, they got me nodding off during one of those things because it was too comfortable in there and I was falling asleep.
The first clip you see is like Maximilian Dude and Simmons is right next to him, I think. And then right over his right shoulder is just me going. So it was, oh my God, wow. So I left in two minds, terrified and very curious about what's going on. Why is she in an old-timey hospital? How old? You know what I mean? Like, why is that the thing? Who is this hulking mammoth? I have an idea of who that hulking mammoth is. I don't know if I talked to you about that, but there's like lore implications that I'm like, and as scaredy cat as I am with horror games, Resident Evil has always been one that's really fascinated me. So to hear the name Ashcroft and reference Outbreak to see
Right.
this hulking behemoth female, clearly a female because of the way the hair looks. And I don't know if the public's going to get to see it, so I'm trying to be as descriptive as
Yeah, I was
possible.
like, it was just like, so the thing is up, but is there like, are they going to post that trailer or that
Yeah,
gameplay? I don't know.
I don't know. But I have
It's not
a
up
couple
now.
of thoughts based on, again, I was talking to Maximilian before we went into the theater, and he had some thoughts, some theories about the trailer and what it shows and why it's showing it, and just really, really interesting theory crafting stuff that has my gears turning. But yeah, man, holy crap. They have the mood. They have the scare factor, and I think this is obviously embargoes up, so we can talk about this. They have both first and third person.
Yes,
Switch it on the fly.
That's how
Beautiful
they ended
thing.
it. So they showed us this long sequence in first person of a big, tall, scary lady following us and chasing us down. That she's the big monster, at least in this sequence, through what, like you said, I think looked like a hospital. And then the way they finished it is going into the menus and it's going from first person, going over to third person, and then it just looks like Resident Evil 4. Like it's over the shoulder. It looks exactly like Resident Evil 4 in terms of perspective. And then it seemed to imply like, yeah, this is not just like, oh, we're an option, like the secondary option. It seems to be a completely viable way to play this game if that's what you prefer.
Yeah, somebody in chat asked what my T-shirt was. It's Yuri from Street Fighter 6 and Tony Storm from All Elite Wrestling. But yeah, it's just some wild stuff, and I think that's awesome. I think the fact that you can switch between first and third is good. That's an accessibility thing that I think not many people think about. Motion sickness is a thing. I had a regular back when I worked in the retail gaming trenches who was so motion sick by first person, could not watch someone else play it. It was that bad. So that person is now able to enjoy Resident Evil 9 after not being able to enjoy 7 and 8 until they added those third person modes later on, is neat. I'm glad that they're able to do that.
Did you say thirst person?
I did that was Resident Evil 8. That was thirst person. Thanks, Lady D.
So I also get the idea there is a lot more to this game than even we saw. Like they showed, it was an uninterrupted. Well, there were some cuts, but it was mostly like a gameplay sequence, all of the same vein of like this, Grace in this hospital getting chased by this one character, this one enemy character. Like that's what we saw. But we didn't see any idea of like, oh, is there something outside of this hospital? Is this the is there more to it? Are there other characters? And there's definitely a lot of speculation online that I think is like pretty onto something where it's like they are probably going to be bringing back some other characters and stuff like that. I'm ready to see what happens with that.
So quick, like TLDR of the conversation I had. So in this trailer, it makes a point to show you as much of this decimated Raccoon City as possible, which implies some sort of non-linear experience, open world sort of deal. It also makes a point to show you the forest around this decimated Raccoon City. Hey, Resident Evil fans, what's out there?
Yep.
Spencer Manson's out there.
Yep.
And then who was in Spencer Manson in the Resident Evil remake? You may remember this person with bars around their hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's who the big lady is.
Yeah.
In 9. I think it's Lisa Trevor.
Yep.
So there you go. That's my spin-off, tinfoil hat theory. We'll see if it comes up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think there would be some characters that'd be really fun and kind of funny to force them to go back to Raccoon City. So
that would be
I'm like kind of just ready to see all of that. And I don't know, I'm speculating like everyone else. So let's see what happens. But very encouraged by what I saw. I would probably like describe it in terms of scary level as it's closer to Resident Evil 7 than anything else. Maybe turned down like one notch. Sure. It wasn't as completely petrifying to me as I found Resident Evil 7 to be, but it was definitely closer to that than even like 8 and anything else. Really.
Trying to straddle that line. I feel like 8 was a little more action oriented, except for the place in the dollhouse.
Yeah,
fuck the dollhouse sequence. But I think 9's going to try and be like maybe more half and half, sort of.
I'm looking forward to it. February 27th, that's the date for that, right?
Yes, 27 of 2026. That's how I had it in my brain. I think that's right. There you go.
And that'll be right as the 30th anniversary is happening, basically, right? Yeah, that's
right around it.
Yep, because I think that's in March. So very, Very, very cool. I was glad we got to see it, and Capcom really brought it, man. Really, like, kind of thank God for Capcom at a certain point. Really making it feel like some third-party publishers still have this shit figured out, and
Yeah.
I was impressed by that. All right, Jason, let's explain what we do here. Giantbomb.com/join. You can do that to get ad-free shows and support us if you like what we do. We're just an independent team that's trying to make video game coverage still make sense in 2025. Lots of people have helped us out, but we could always use a lot more help and do stuff like we did with GB at Night, where we went out and into LA and had a bunch of night shows and had a ton of panels of really cool people talking about how they feel about video games and all this stuff. It was a really good time. Really, that only works with your support. So go to giantbomb.com/join and help us out. We really appreciate it. As far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Switch 2 has become the fastest selling home console of all time in just 4 days. This is from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. In less than a week, the new Switch 2 console has become the, quote, fastest selling hardware globally for Nintendo, as the company reported 3.5 million units were sold in just 4 days. Fans around the world are showing their enthusiasm for Nintendo Switch 2 as an upgraded way to play at home and on the go, Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser said in a press statement following the announcement of the sales milestone. We are thankful for the response and happy to see the fun they are already having with the Nintendo Switch 2 as they explore new features and games that bring friends and family together in new ways. In comparison, the Switch reached 2.74 million units sold in its first month, and Sony reported that it had shipped, not sold, 3.4 million PS5 consoles during the first month it was available to purchase. Obviously, Jason, a big part of this success is a manufacturing success, right? Or a logistical success of just being able to get that many consoles into retailers, into the supply chain in 4 days. Like that is kind of nuts that, all these other consoles could barely crack 3 million or, PlayStation 5, 3.4 million in a month. Obviously, Nintendo waiting, kind of holding things back, letting a dam build up of supply and unleashing it all at once seems like a really successful idea. And now it just feels like there is a critical mass of Switch 2s out there for, developers that want to release games right now in this moment. It just seems like it has really worked. How do you think the launch has gone so far as from your point of view?
From a personal standpoint, I forgot the Switch 2 launched because we were so busy at Summer Games Fest. But from a top down perspective, this was they had it figured out. They had it figured out from the get go. We were all worried about nothing. The fact that they had to delay their price announcement because of the accentuating circumstances surrounding it. That was just that gave us extra fears and concerns that ended up not being true. And however they stockpiled it, whatever, like you said, they just let it, break up behind the barricade and let the dam burst on June 5th. They figured it out. And that number's only going to go up. I got an email. I guess Best Buy forgot that I bought mine from them because I got an email saying restocks were coming soon. I don't need 2, Best Buy. Stop it. At least not yet.
I got 2. I had a pre-order left over from my Best Buy here. So when I was out in LA, I went to a Best Buy and got one, and then I came back home and I had the last pre-order sitting in the store, and they must have been like looking at it, been like, who, like, 'cause my name's right on it on the sticker.
Sure.
Jeff Grubb. They're like, who's this guy? Why hasn't he picked up a Switch 2? So they must have like either looked in the system or like Googled my name or something. Because I went in, they're like, we saw you were in LA picking up a Switch 2. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? And they didn't really explain it beyond that. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get my Switch 2 and get out of here. I got the last one there. And it was, now that I have to, I'm like, I'll figure out some giveaway for this other one, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, you're right. It kind of like happened in such a weird week. It was easy to get distracted, but I am like looking forward to like finding a time to really just play a ton of this on Giant Bomb and cover all the stuff. And at the same time, it's like, it really is kind of Mario Kart is the big new thing, and there's not much else to talk about in terms of like obvious marquee titles.
Yeah, I mean the one of the Switch's biggest hallmarks was its indie presence, and I think that hasn't quite got there yet with the Switch 2, which is to be understood,
Sure.
right? The biggest companies are going to get the demo units before, or the dev units before the smaller indies are going to get it. That's just common sense. But it is a Mario Kart and Pals at the moment. The rest of them being ports. I think Cyberpunk runs great. I think Street Fighter 6 runs great. I think Kunitsugami runs great. Shout out to Kunitsugami. I'm going to say that name every segment. You watch. I'm going to say it every time. I'm happy with it so far. It's exactly what I expected it to be. I think I will feel better about it in a month once Bonanza hits. Yes. And we finally have our first original. Not that Mario Kart's not an original, but it's made for the Switch 2 Nintendo adventure. I don't think it's going to be a game that sells consoles per se, but it's going to be the upgraded Switch 2 experience.
It'll be the game you get if you get this console, though.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's the one. So now I just think we're in our first month holding period. We're just trying to get some other games, trying maybe to find that little under the surface sort of like that Survival Kids I haven't had a chance to try yet. I'm curious how that's working out. The GameCube stuff is going to hold me as well. The fact that I get to play Wind Waker again is great. Anytime I can boot up Soul Calibur 2 is a good day. And so it's right where I think it would have been or should have been, right in my expectations so far. I will say though, I have to say, holding it feels nice. It feels, it's got some weight, it's got some oomph to it. I really enjoy the way that it feels in my hands.
How do you feel about the way the Joy-Cons just pop in? I really prefer that. I saw someone saying they prefer sliding it down the rail. I guess I enjoy that action of like sliding the Joy-Con onto the Switch 1. But then the way it actually felt when it was connected really was poor. I've talked about that a bunch before. So how do I feel about this version? It is definitely better.
Someone put on Blue Sky. I assume that someday the novelty of the magnet latching will become less novel. But today is not that day, and I still feel that way a week later. It's just it's very nice, and I'm with you on that. I'm with you on the. Like you'd slide it in on the rail and you would hear the sound that it registered that it was there, but it still kind of felt like this flimsy. Way it had a little flimsy. Cheap. Now, no, boom, sits right in there, feels good. I am from a feel perspective, I am very happy.
Yep, and I had a Game Informer in chat on YouTube. I don't know if everyone heard Game Informer's subscription's back up, so you can get that magazine. Make sure you head over there, everybody. Thank you, Game Informer.
I did it while I was at Summer Games Fest, and not because Marcus Stewart was looking at me funny. I just did it because I wanted to. I promise.
He was very threatening. He did like held. I don't want to say held everyone at gunpoint, but it was pretty close to that. It was great to see Marcus. It was great to see everyone.
All of them,
the weekend
all
for
great.
Sure. Let's keep going here. Some other kind of Switch stories. Forget the PS4. Koei Tecmo reckons Switch 2 is closer to an Xbox Series S. This is from Jim Norman at Nintendo Life. They say that that comparison is the thief of Joy-Con. Oh my God, Jim Norman. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? Or something. I'm going to call the police. Or something along those lines. But ever since Switch 2's reveal, people have been clamoring to work out how Nintendo's latest machine stacks up against other consoles on the market. Before launch, the tech experts over at Digital Foundry suggested the console was roughly in line with Sony's PS4, but Koei Tecmo has recently estimated that it might be even beefier. That is according to producer Takuto Edogawa, who, in a recent interview with WCCF Tech about the upcoming Switch 2 version of Wild Hearts S, estimated that Switch 2 might be closer to the Xbox Series S in terms of raw computing power than Sony's last-gen system. There are a lot of characteristics when it comes to raw computing power, so it's difficult to generalize, Edogawa told the outlet, but I think it could be thought of as closer to the Series S. Part of me is like, it's easy to like talk these things up or just make a quick comparison, and really it doesn't matter. All that matters is actually the end result of how these games run on the Switch 2. But I get the sense that the thing is relatively powerful, or like compared to what my expectations were. It does seem pretty capable, and yet there's still a handful of games that I'm surprised don't run better, and those are mostly third-party launch titles like Hitman, where I'm like, I think this should be at least 40 frames per second, if not 60 frames per second, and it's kind of just running around 30 frames per second a lot of the times. So how are you finding performance so far?
I have yet to really see any issues in the games that I have played, to the point where I'm like you. I think there's some untapped potential in here.
Yeah.
Right now, whether that untapped potential only comes from the first party from Nintendo games because they have the most familiarity with the tech, kind of like a PS5 situation. I've always felt that PS5 first party games are the only ones that take the most advantage of what that thing can do, like a Ragnarok or a
Right.
like, you know what I'm saying? So I think you might have that situation here with the Switch 2, but hearing this from Koei Tecmo is pretty cool, right? It's good to hear that the third parties are thinking it's more powerful than they expected, because that might allow them to then experiment or iterate a little more than they normally would, whether it's a port or a brand new game that they're developing for the first time. And that may create some more innovations that make the games better, that make it that much better on Switch 2. And if that carries over to other consoles, if it's one of those, if it's a port that's coming to all consoles, great. This is the kind of optimism you want to hear about a brand new console launch. This
Exactly.
is something you want, because you want other companies to hear this and support it. So you get the big third party ports or the weird third party ports like Kunitsugami. So and guess what? The next story, it's even easier. So yeah, I like this. I like this optimism. I hope other companies are feeling the same way. And I feel like if this sort of trend continues in mindset, we can talk about sales all we want, but if the companies making the games have the mindset of, oh, there's a lot more we can play with here, that only bodes well.
Exactly, and I think that it seems to be the general sentiment of developers, at the very least, that it's easy to work with. You know, there's always the risk of this is a different architecture than the Switch one. Nintendo could have, cheaped out on that and made it been like, all right, well, you guys figure it out. And it doesn't seem that like that's the case. Now, I think I would credit NVIDIA on probably making those tools easy to work with. It's in their interest to ensure that people are really happy with using a Switch 2 dev kit that has NVIDIA tools built into it, because NVIDIA would like more people to take advantage of that stuff, whether that's on PC or maybe NVIDIA spreads out to work with other companies in the future.
Sure.
At the very least, they want to continue working with Nintendo for a very long time. And by the time we're done with this console, they'll be around the end of their agreed upon original contract, which was going to be 20 years. They'll be nearing the end of that, and they'll want to re-update with Nintendo, I'm sure, at that point. So, but being a really strong partner is clearly going to be to everyone's benefit, and it seems like they've delivered on that here. And then, we get the fruits of that labor. We get the games that actually are running pretty well on this Switch 2, and I'm like, this seems like a system from a handheld point of view that will easily be able to last this generation and maybe a little bit beyond.
Absolutely.
All right. Switch 2 version helps Street Fighter 6 reach major milestone for sales. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. The Nintendo Switch 2 version of Street Fighter 6 has nudged the game over 5 million units in lifetime sales. Capcom has announced the fighting game, which was released in 2023 on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam, was one of 2 Capcom titles to launch alongside the Nintendo Switch 2 last week. Street Fighter 6 and
It's got me Path of the Goddess.
Both released on Nintendo's latest console at launch. The Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game has pushed the latest entry in the legacy fighting game franchise over 5 million copies sold.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think Street Fighter is always one of those series that feels like, that's easily the best-selling fighting game. It's like that's actually not the case. It's usually Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter, rushes to 3 million sold every time, sure. And then, take some time to get a little bit above that. But 5 million feels like a really good benchmark for them. If they can get past that, hey, that's a successful Street Fighter. So, and then being able to take advantage of the Switch 2, a platform on which Street Fighter 6 seems to run really well. Like nothing but positive reception for that game in terms of how it performs and how it looks on that platform. To the point where I'm like, I should pick it up on there, even if it's just kind of a showcase of what the Switch 2 is capable of. And that's one of the early games where we saw it, and I was like looking at it, I'm like, that looks really sharp, looks really solid. Yeah. You can kind of just tell that the Switch 2 has other stuff going on other than a decent processor. It's got, the NVIDIA DLSS, because those lines on these characters, the edges were so crisp. Like that looks like image reconstruction, and like the really, really good kind. And that seems to be exactly the case. So a game like this, being able to take advantage of that stuff and then just like look comparable to the PS5 version, even obviously there are some graphical features turned off between this versus the PS5 version. But when you compare those two side by side and you're looking at them from an image quality point of view, it's kind of like, the Switch 2 version really holds up very well. So yeah, the game should sell well on the system. And people are going to be looking for games like this that take advantage of the hardware, and that's exactly what this is. So good for it. And Street Fighter 6 still has like a long future ahead of it. So
Sure.
hey, maybe
Sure.
Switch 2 could become one of its primary platforms from that point of view.
I could see it, and I think part of this too, this new sales figure, is that you get the people who bought multiple copies now. They bought it when it launched in 2023
Yes,
on PlayStation, and now they have a new. If they're buying the Switch 2, it's just a game they're familiar with to get with the console. I also thought it was smart that they made this Street Fighter 6 version include both years of DLC right in the package. They could have not done that. They could have not done that though.
You're right.
And that would have caused an uproar that they just wanted to avoid. So they were smart to do that. As you said, the future is bright with the third year of DLC announced on Friday. Kenny Omega is a treasure, and that trailer was fantastic.
What a great trailer.
Great way to do it. And the characters are cool. I kind of had a heart attack when I saw Ingrid. I can't believe she's back. And if you know your Street Fighter and your Capcom, you know why that's so surprising. But great to see those characters back. And I love their cadence now. They have 4 characters a year, split out almost evenly across 3 months. And it allows people to, right when they start to get tired with the next character, the new one comes in and the patch comes with it. It's a very interesting way of keeping people in and interested. Even those that aren't in the competitive scene. I think a lot of people in fighting games in particular tend to immediately focus on what the competitive scene thinks, because that's what's going to determine how they change things moving forward. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case, right? They don't go too far into the casual either. Ask the Tekken fans what's going on at the moment. They have to find that middle ground. And I think Capcom's doing a very good job with Street Fighter 6 in doing so, and it's only going to get better. So this is cool. I'm glad to hear this. I'm glad to hear that even a marquee franchise like this is still having this much success, because this is 35, almost 40 years old too, right?
Yep.
Jesus Christ, I just said that out loud.
Yeah, that's rough.
So it's neat. It's neat stuff.
God, it's like, even if you only count Street Fighter 2, it's still about that old. That sucks.
Still almost 40 fucking years old.
Oof. All right. That does it for the Switch 2 news stories. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to the rest of the headlines right after this. If you don't want to see these, go to giantbomb.com/join and you get ad free, which we might hear about right now. This episode of Giant Bomb is brought to you by giantbomb.com/join. Join us there, become a member. It helps us make fun stuff. It gets you ad-free content. It also helps us make some extras here and there that we'll give exclusively to you as members. It's giantbomb.com/join for $10 a month or $100 a year, where you save $20. You can support us in making all the cool stuff that we make over here at Giant Bomb. Once again, that's giantbomb.com/join. Become a member now. Oh my God, breaking news. Jordan Miller of VGC. A new Jumping Flash game is in development, or was in development, for PlayStation VR. Jeez, let's kind of take a look at this real quick. New Jumping Flash game for PlayStation VR was in the early stages of development, but was canceled, according to Shuhei Yoshida. That stinks. I kind of would have liked to have seen that. I bet also, although I think just make a Jumping Flash game. It doesn't need to be PSVR. Speaking to VGC, as part of an upcoming interview, the former Sony executive reflected on the classic PlayStation titles that were remade as VR experiences, such as the forthcoming Luminous Arise, which was really fun. When the conversation shifted to other PlayStation franchises being considered for VR adaptations, Yoshida revealed that a VR adaptation of the PS1 cult classic Jumping Flash was in the very early stages of development. Some developers wanted to license Jumping Flash to develop it into part of their new VR games. Yoshida said, stopping short of revealing which developer was working on the game. One of the ones that actually happened was the original creator of Fantavision asked for the license and remade it in VR for Fantavision. Interesting. Okay. It doesn't sound like this is going to happen anymore. That's a shame. I think I probably wasn't going to go get a PSVR 2 no matter what, Jason Fanelli, but I would have liked to have seen Jumping Flash return in any way whatsoever. That's a cool franchise. To me, it's like, when I think of early PlayStation, one of the first things that like flashes in my head is Jumping Flash. Yeah.
That's fair.
Did you just want to say Kanitsugami just to get it out of the way?
No, I don't. No, this is not on the rundown. It's not part of the story. No, I have to say, the roller coaster in chat when you went from, oh, new Jumping Flash was in development. There's some people mad at you in the chat now.
Listen, chat sent it to me and I was just reading it live. So that's how it goes sometimes, everybody.
Also, let Sony know you want it, and maybe Team Asobi will make it. That'd be nice.
God, that would be fantastic. All right, let's get back to these stories. Welcome back to Game Mess Mornings. I'm Jeff Grubb. That's Jason Fanelli. Here we go. Xbox's 25th anniversary year will be, quote, really special, Phil Spencer said in an interview. This is from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. Next year will be the 25th anniversary of the original Xbox, the system that marked Microsoft's entrance into the console wars. While Microsoft has yet to elaborate on how the company will celebrate that milestone, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer has indicated that 2026 will be really special for Xbox fans with returning franchises. When you think about Fable, when you think about Gears, when you think about Forza, I mean, these are franchises that have been really part of what makes Xbox what it is today, said Spencer on the official Xbox podcast, after the Xbox Games Showcase. And it's going to be a really nice lineup next year. I love the games that we've launched so far in 2025. I think, as you already went through, we have a strong finish to 2025. And then when I look at 2026 and our 25th anniversary and the franchises that we're going to launch in that year, I think it's going to really be a special year for Xbox. Gears of War E-Day is one of the Xbox titles expected to arrive in 2026 alongside Fable and a new Forza game. Last fall, Microsoft shared ambitious plans for the Halo franchise, but it's unknown if a new title in the franchise will arrive in 2026. It's possible that another remake or remaster of the original Halo will be released next year. Spencer's latest interview didn't mention whether next year's marquee Xbox titles will also be coming to PlayStation 5, although I bet they will. Decision to release Elder Scrolls for Oblivion remastered and Forza Horizon 5 on Sony's console led to both of those games topping the PSN charts in April. Jason, I've included a list of games that, like a small list of games, I don't know if this is comprehensive, of stuff that we're still waiting on that I suppose could appear in 2026. You know, Fable and some of these other ones like coming out in 2026 makes me feel like, so Perfect Dark, Everwild, State of Decay 3, The Elder Scrolls 6, Contraband, Project Mara, all these things, it feels like they might not even come out next year, which would be a little bit of a shame, especially Perfect Dark. It feels like that one's overdue. But I get the sense that that one is also still pretty far off. Do you think, Gears, Fable, Forza, that is going to be enough to make a 25th anniversary year for Xbox feel, quote, really special?
Yeah, I mean, it's three of their marquee franchises since they started. Fable 1 was Xbox, Gears was Xbox 360, Forza has been since the days of the original Xbox 2. If you're going to try and lean on the nostalgia factor of a 25th anniversary, you lean on the franchises you got that got you there. Halo is also one of them, but we don't know what's going on with Master Chief at the moment. So we'll see if maybe that surfaces at some point by the end of the year. Halo sounds like a Game Awards style announcement coming in 2026, you know what I'm saying? So we have until the end of the year to figure that part out. Of all the games you just listed there, I think maybe a Perfect Dark sneaks in at the end of 2026. Maybe. You know, now I agree that it's probably still a little far off, and 2027 is definitely a possibility. But of the games you mentioned there, that's the only one that we saw some substantial gameplay of.
You're right. And that was last year we saw that? Last Summer Game
Showcase.
Fest? Or last year's showcase.
Last year's showcase, they had the live viewing party at the Academy for.
Right.
That's where that trailer went off. And I thought that looked pretty decently ahead. Now, how much of a vertical slice that was, we don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think of all of the games you listed there, besides Fable, which is in the list but was specifically mentioned by Phil Spencer, so that's basically a 99% lock at this point. Perfect Dark would be the one. Everwild, if you're sleeping on Everwild, you're never going to wake up at this point, I think. I'm not sure that State of Decay 3 even exists. I don't even remember what Project Mara is.
That's the one from the people that did Hellblade. Yeah, that's the Hellblade
their next game. Ninja Theory's next game.
Yeah, Ninja Theory's other game. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we'll see that for a long, long time. And if we do see it, we may have already seen it. They just changed the name and nobody noticed. But no, I think leaning on your strongest franchises throughout your history makes a ton of sense for this. I would not expect a game like a sequel to Kunitsugami to show up.
There it is. He found it out, everybody.
It's a challenge now, Jeff.
All right, I'm very curious to see how it happens for the rest of the show. Contraband is one where it's like, yeah, we saw that sandwich. Was that the one? No, maybe that was a different game, but there was that Steely Dan trailer that they played several years ago now. We haven't seen anything since. That was from Avalanche, I want to say, and they were going to partner with Xbox. A lot of those Xbox partner games, like that Wu-Tang game was originally going to be an Xbox partner game, and then it didn't show up. It didn't show up at the Xbox thing. They didn't mention it. It was at Summer Game Fest, with Jeff Keighley. A lot of those things do seem to have fallen through one way or the other. I wonder if Contraband is in a similar situation, but we'll see.
Yeah,
or maybe we won't ever see. I don't know.
I would have put Clockwork Revolution in that tier too, but then all of a sudden it was the longest trailer at the Xbox showcase. So that's probably coming sooner than later.
Yeah, In Exile does seem to be one of those workhorse studios for Microsoft. I think the thing with Clockwork Revolution was it seemed way bigger than anything they've done before in terms of assets and just the scope of the game. And so it's it would have been easy to guess that's one we don't see for 3 more years because it's probably causing them a bunch of headaches. But yeah, they made big promises. They did a big talk for that one. So I'm kind of ready to see if they could walk the walk. But yeah, I think Xbox is in a pretty decent place in terms of how they are releasing games. Avowed was really good. Indiana Jones was really good. I'm looking forward to the stuff they have for the rest of this year. Yeah, South of Midnight was really solid. Yeah, exactly. So it's they have found a pretty decent footing when it comes to actually putting out games that people care about, where they just didn't have that before. So they've solved a lot of those problems. Did that, turn things around for the Xbox console hardware business? No, but that they're over that now. That's old news. So as we get through the end of this year and go into next year, do I have faith that they'll be able to maintain that? Yeah, I think so. Will they take the next step up, the next step forward in terms of okay, now clearly every game they're putting out is a 9 out of 10? No. I really don't expect that, but that's okay. That you don't need to do that. Give me some solid games.
I don't think that's what anyone's aspiration should be. That's one of those things find the next Balatro. No, just make good games, and if people attach to them, they attach to them.
Yeah, right. And then Dabboy Cherry says, can't wait to pay $80 for Outer Worlds 2. I know that was a big talking point while we were out in SGF. A lot of people online were having that conversation because that got revealed. Do you have any feelings about that? I'm I think it's just a weird one to start the $80 price tag for. But so is Mario Kart for Nintendo. So
sure. I agree that it's a weird spot, but I feel like, as somebody said in Twitch chat, Truckowski, some guy named Truckowski, let Obsidian cook. If you're going to have a studio with a game ready soon that could kind of convince people of the quality of the $80 price tag, Obsidian's not a bad one to choose, I don't think, especially since Avowed has already come out and impressed people. Outer Worlds 2, I loved Outer Worlds 1, so I'm very excited for this Outer Worlds 2. I would have paid $80 anyway. But that's just me. I get that. So yeah, I think it's the right call to make for the circumstances that they have. They don't have a Halo coming out. They don't have a Gears 6. Gears E-Day is not coming out this year. Forza would be a weird one to start with too, because it's annual.
Yeah,
so I think this is
annual at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a good, here's the one we have to start with. Not the best choice of what we have. Might as well do it now.
You got to rip off the Band-Aid at some point. If this is what you're going to do, you got to just do it.
Sure.
And look, I think Outer Worlds 2 looked really, really good in what they showed us. So yeah. All right, let's keep moving here. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 remake actually does include most of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4's original activities. This is from Alex Newhouse at GameSpot. Most of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4's content will be included in the Pro Skater 3+4 remake, developer Iron Galaxy has confirmed. Many of the fourth game's unique activities will be playable as post-game content, unlocked after the players complete an initial set of 10 goals. While the first 3 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games are structured quite similarly, the fourth entry in this series introduced a bunch of unusual and unconventional missions. As Iron Galaxy has said that it is trying to standardize gameplay in the remake, many fans assumed that these more unusual missions would not make the cut. However, the studio assumed that the studio revealed that two video games chronicle that most of these are included as pro goals. While VGC reported that Pro Skater 4's minigames like tennis will not be part of the remake, the pro goals will encompass a substantial amount of the game's original content. The studio stated that Pro Skater 4 posed a challenge because of the widely varying structure of the original missions. Many of them did not fit into the 2-minute format that is being uniformly applied across games in the remake. while we don't know the full scope of what's included in the Pro goals, this will come as welcome news to Pro Skater 4 fans. And just to get it out there, I continue to be in the camp of, I think this is going to be just a fine version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I'm not really worried about it. I know there's a lot of purists out there that want it to be exactly what 4 was. And that's not my concern as someone who loved Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. I think this is going to be a really faithful and good adaptation. And then having that stuff that doesn't make sense in the 2-minute format translated as best they can into these pro goals that is like basically post-game content or whatever, however you want to phrase that. Maybe that's a weird way of putting it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it gives them a chance to like, hey, experiment and get a little bit silly as they maybe continue to do more with Tony Hawk going forward. Obviously, if they go into the Thug games, they will have to like change some stuff up because those are just so different at that point that it wouldn't make sense to try to make them feel like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 or whatever. But yeah, I hope this is welcome news to people who are like worried about this, but I'm sure it won't alleviate all concerns. How do you feel?
I'm sure purists are purists, right? I heard a lot of this when the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy started. They wanted the original game remade, and Square Enix was doing something too different, and it wasn't for them. And I respect that. I do. But I think when you're trying to make lemonade out of these lemons, you got to do whatever you can to make it as cohesive as possible. And I actually had a chance to go hands-on with 3 and 4 at SGF, tried out Michelangelo, tried out some of the new stages, did see these pro goals in action, and it makes sense, right? It's like you complete the stage the first time, and then they're going to give you a couple other challenges to really maximize your skills. I didn't complete any because, as I learned, I'm really bad at Tony Hawk all of a sudden. So I'll have to figure that part out. I'm better at Kanitsugami. But no, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's a way to try and find that middle ground. So we've been talking about a lot today, finding the middle ground between certain things. Mm-hmm. And I think that the new stages that they've made, I really like the pinball stage they had us in. That was really neat. There has been some things that have come out that reference like the Thug games, like you said. Eric Sparrow is in this game.
He's in this game.
You can mess with him somehow. So that might be a bit of a reference to what's going on in the future. And also, too, when I'm going through the menus, it wasn't like you picked Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and then that booted up and you played it, and you picked THPS 4 and that booted up. No, you picked this game, this track, this skater, and off you went, right? Yep. It wasn't like they weren't divided like they were, for a bad example, Capcom Fighting Collection, where you load that game up and you go into that game. They're just one big cohesive unit. It's like marrying the two games together. And in order to find the best way to represent both games, they have to do stuff like this. And it worked for me. The controller seemingly did it because, like I said, I was really bad. But the way that they have approached this, I think it'll either have people be like, oh, I don't care, that's still really good, or the people that are like, all right, this works. It's not. And then you'll have your purists who wouldn't like it no matter what they did. So I was happy with what I played of it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for those purists, I would be like, yeah, you could still play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 that way on a million different things. And
sure.
Memento Memori in chat was saying exactly that. Like, I'll just stick with the original. If you're that much of a purist, I totally get it. But I'm ready to see this adaptation because I bet it does modernize things in some really nice ways and make the game even better in many ways. And then it'll stink to miss some of the stuff. But those pro goals, those sort of adaptations of the weirder things, for me, those were never great in the first place. Like the weirdest ones, it's like I don't need to be playing tennis in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, right? So
sure.
I guess having any sort of way of representing those weird things in the game will just feel like a bonus to me personally. I just want to have the cool stages that I can do cool tricks on and find a cool line and try to get the highest score possible and try to finally crack 100 million points in a combo or whatever. That's where I'm going to be focused. And I bet this game is going to be fantastic for the way I play them.
Sure. I just Twitch chat right now, or giantbomb.com/chat, giantbomb.com/chat, which you can access by going to giantbomb.com/join and joining the website right now. Chat is very good. Eric Sparrow would have a podcast where he would sell brain pills. Eric Sparrow would have a meme coin. Eric Sparrow lost all of his money on NFTs. Probably was a big investor in ivermectin manufacturers. Good stuff.
Keep going, chat.
No, it's all I had. I got to the end of it.
MindsEye dev is working around the clock to fix the game's many issues. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot.
Please put the screenshot on screen. Please
Yeah,
do it.
Jan, you got this screenshot if you want to put it up. MindsEye, the new game from former Rockstar Games boss Leslie Benzies and his new team at Build a Rocket Boy, the name of the studio, launched this week, but the release didn't exactly go to plan. The game encountered numerous bugs and other issues, and now the developer has responded. In a statement on Reddit, Build a Rocket Boy thanked fans for playing the game and submitting their feedback. I bet they're thankful for that, while acknowledging performance issues on PC and console. We understand that the current minimum spec requirements are very high, but our engineering team are working around the clock to improve performance on mainstream hardware as well as consoles by integrating the performance improvements in Unreal Engine V version 5.6, the developer said. We will provide patch 3 update timing, including these improvements, within the next 24 hours. The statement was posted on June 10th, so more information about the new patch is expected today, June 11th. You can see some of the issues players have encountered so far in many videos posted online. As you might be able to see, let's see, there is, characters are melting like Assassin's Creed Unity, right?
Say, did they build it in Unity or in Assassin's Creed Unity? What's going on here?
Got his ass. Yeah.
Got his ass. He looks like a demon from Kunitsugami. Shatsao!
Bang!
But yeah, wow. It's funny. I came out of my interview with the associate game director at the IO showcase, sort of like, oh, okay, because they didn't really talk about this until the showcase, but inside MindsEye is an entire creation suite where you can create your own missions in MindsEye, and like you can get into the logic and all that stuff, and if you find a particular logic node or logic code that you like, you can upload it to their asset library, which is always growing with everything that people were doing. That to me is fascinating, right? And if they could have made that work and just included MindsEye with it, right? If you go to Epic Game Store blog, I wrote this interview up. Shout out to Brian Crescente. But like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
What is going on here? Oh my God, this guy's got dreadlocks coming out of his eyeballs. It's wow.
He's
can't
falling
come back
apart,
from that. Wow. So yeah, they gotta. People can make whatever they want, but they need to fix like that. That's not good.
No. Yeah. Someone in chat says that the character looks like Slurms McKenzie, and that's right. That's 100% right. And now in chat, people are saying like Skulker S. I love that this shit show of a game exists. That's where I'm at. Where I'm at a point where I appreciate when wildly weird and kind of broken games feel like they're rushed out, and they are like, but they're also clearly big budget. Like they spent a lot of money on this game. I'm curious to try it out for myself. I think my plan is to try to stream some of it today, before we have Blake Club. So I'm gonna check this thing out, and maybe we'll get to a point where I could do a quick look or something. But yeah, very curious about this one. I wonder if there was any talk internally after Grand Theft Auto got delayed about potentially delaying this game, because it's like clearly they were trying to rush it out before GTA 6 came out. Yeah. And now it's like, well, that's not coming out to 2026. Maybe you want a little bit more time in the oven. But no, they went right ahead with their release date, and IOI, who's publishing the game, made sure that it got out, and they like presented the game as a big deal, and they asked people if they wanted review codes, and then they never gave anyone any review codes.
No, they did not. No, they did not. And now we kind of know why.
Oh yeah, we really know why. So yeah, I want to check this thing out and see for myself. Seems like a very, very weird thing overall. So yeah.
Just the whole thing is just super weird. Yeah.
All right. Last couple of stories. Splitgate 2 director apologizes amid Summer Game Fest hat controversy. This is from Deshelle Ronaldo at DualShockers. Earlier this week, we once again had the wonderful Summer Game Fest hosted by the ever-present Jeff Keighley. Besides the reveals of titles like Resident Evil Requiem and Atomic Heart 2, there was a showcase for Splitgate 2, which garnered quite a bit of attention, possibly for all the wrong reasons. The hat was throwing shade at us. Okay, basically the guy was, I don't know, I must have lost a paragraph here. The CEO of the company, Ian Prohl, I think is his name. He wore a hat that said "Make FPS Great Again," and it looked really stupid. It was just like, I think the kids call it cringe. It was pretty cringe. And then he came out and said, I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to back off from like who I am or whatever, and if you're offended, whatever. And then he apologized and said sorry for offending people. So
Yeah.
no excuses. I'm sorry. And he posted a 3-minute video on social media. And I'll be honest, I did not care to watch.
Mm.
I'll say, Jason, I hear this Ian Prohl guy is quite a character, is maybe the fairest way of putting it, maybe too fair. I hear he's kind of out of his mind. And so him behaving this way is not a huge surprise to me. This clearly, I mean, he doesn't apologize unless I think personally, I don't think he apologizes unless they are seeing some sort of negative ramifications on the performance of this game. You think that's right?
Absolutely. He wouldn't have apologized for shit if this game was selling great. This is Crisis Comms 101, how to submerge your brand in 90 seconds. You paid 6 figures to get on that stage and submerge your game, which has been in beta for how long now? And now is about to release in 1.0, and you just took a shotgun to everything that your dev team has been doing to get this game out for the better part of a year. I've heard about this game now. I've been invited to like beta tests and stuff for the better part of a year. And now, all we're talking about is your stupid fucking hat. What is wrong with you? Yep. It's a head scratcher. It really is, because I want to be excited about this game. There is some really cool shit going on with this game. Splitgate, first one was great. The second one had some really cool things happening. And now all we care about, rightfully so, is the hat. If I were the rest of his development team, I'm assuming he apologized because of negative ramifications for sales or whatever. But I hope that the reason he apologized was because the rest of his studio put him in the center of the room, tied him to a chair, and said, tweet your apology or we're going to fucking knock you out. That's what they should have done. I assume it's because of sales, but that's what should have happened. Those people worked too damn hard to put this game out, to have the guy at the top throw gasoline on a fire for after 90 seconds and 6 figures spent to earn that spot. Just infuriating.
And it's like, I saw the hat and I was just like, oh my God, my stars and garters, I'm so offended. It's just like, you just seem stupid, and it's a distraction from your game, because it's like, wait, what? Are you making that joke from 8 years ago, like that everyone decided was a pretty stupid joke
of jokes?
Yeah, it's right. It is so outdated to the point where it's like, wait, do you think that you're doing something here? What, like, and then so I wasn't thinking about the game at all. I was like thinking about the hat, even though it's like, again, not offended, just thought it was embarrassing. And so and then was like a little bit like, and now he's like proud of himself and like, I'm not going to apologize to anybody, until he did apologize. It just looks
cool, dude.
Yeah, it looks like you just aren't capable of making decisions as an adult and being mature, and you shouldn't be in the position of running a company, is what it seems like to me. But personally, I never cared about Splitgate 2 all that much, and this just made it easy for me to write off. And I'm sure that's exactly what they're worried about. So
yeah, I mean, this would have never happened at a company like Capcom with Kunitsugami. It would have never happened. It infuriates me. It just, I mean, God, I feel so bad for that dev team.
Yep, and it's like, there's no way Jeff Keighley was like, yeah, you can wear the hat. So I assume he put the hat on without telling anybody and walked out there and was like, look at me, I'm going to do the thing. And I just think that's a little shitty. Again, you're right. He paid his money to go up there and talk about whatever he wanted to, I guess. But now you kind of have to get that approved in that situation. I don't know.
I would love to know if that hat was part of Summer Game Fest rehearsals.
No way.
You know what I'm saying? He just pulled it out of his pocket as he was walking on stage.
Yeah.
Because I would love to know what Jeff thinks. Jeff has to be like, this is what they're talking about from my big 2 hour. Like, this is one of the pervading stories. What the hell, dude?
Yeah, what the hell? All right, last story here. Just a quick numbers for Dune Awakening. It topped out at 140,000 concurrent players on Steam. Baby. That's a big launch for Dune Awakening. Which is the survival game. It seemed like it was anticipated. I didn't know it was that anticipated. And the game is, the online multiplayer survival title was unlocked early on June 5th for people who purchased the $70 deluxe edition or the $90 ultimate edition. So people are spending a lot of money on this thing on top of that. But It arrived for everyone on June 10th and immediately set a new record for itself with 142,050 Steam concurrent players per Steam DB, and it costs $50 to get into that version. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and as Skulker points out, survival games always have an absurd player base. Like this is a genre that does just pop off. What we saw with Valheim and a bunch of other things. But I mean, I guess this shows like, hey, the trend to be chasing if you're a licensed game, I suppose, is not whatever the else anyone else has been chasing. It's maybe these survival games are the way to go. I'll check this out. Dune Awakening. I like that the current Dune aesthetic, based on the Villeneuve movies or whatever. I'll hop into this and maybe have Jan do the holler at me. I would enjoy that. All right, that does it for the headlines. Let's get to the poll question from many, many moons ago. Do you think Ubisoft can pull off a Splinter Cell? Current Ubisoft to actually see this thing through. 44% still think they can. I think I'm in the yes at this point. I don't think they've completely lost the touch on being able to see something like this through to a release. But I don't blame anyone for being like, why should I expect the company that's been working on Beyond Good and Evil 2 for 50 years to be able to get Splinter Cell Remake done, even though they announced that game and said it would eventually come out? Do you think there's a chance we don't see that game?
I do, because I honestly, as you said, they need to prove that they can do it. Like, we got Assassin's Creed Shadows, right? But how weird was it this past weekend not having any Ubisoft presence whatsoever? I don't think they appeared anywhere. They weren't in any showcase. They didn't have their normal thing.
Do they have even a Switch 2 game?
I don't think so. Not that I can recall,
weird.
At least. It's weird.
They had a Quest 3 game. I feel like they had they have a launch game for everything. And to me, them not having a decent presence at Switch 2 is like when Donnie didn't get a strike in Big Lebowski. And it's like, oh shit, this fucker's about to die.
This was the company that 2 consoles ago resurrected Zombie for the Wii U, just to get and they had Rayman too. So they had multiple games on this console, and now nowhere to be seen. What are they making? Do we even know?
Nope,
it's weird.
Dazen in chat says Outlaws for Switch 2 is something they announced, but that's not out yet. So that's the only thing that they announced for Switch 2.
And then Twitch chat, Kane Highwind in Twitch chat also represents they're going through that big trial in Europe at the moment, which could have something to do with it. They have
a lot of distractions, and of course they are splitting up the brands. They're doing a brand split. They're going to have Monday night and Thursday nights, I think.
That's how it works. Say Raw and SmackDown to Ubisoft.
All right. New poll question here in a second. Before we get to that, though, let's take a second and let Jason Fanelli tell us where we could find him on the internet, what he has going on, 15 write-ups he's got to go get out there on the internet. Where can people find that work and everything else from you?
All right. So, yes, I have a bunch of Summer Game Fest nonsense going up pretty soon. Most of which will be at Epic Games Store. I can talk about these. None of them are embargoed. They're not written yet, but they're not embargoed because I'm irresponsible. So here, I had to go to sleep last night. So here are a couple of things that are already up. I had an interview. I had a hands-on with Hitman, the mission with Mads Mikkelsen, which you all should have played by now. The interview with the MindsEye fella is up as well. I also have 2 things up at GameSpot. I was cordially invited to visit Skybound before Summer Games Fest on Monday morning, and I played Invincible Versus. That is so fucking cool. That game was awesome, played great. Very, very excited for you to see about that. And I also, this is submitted. It's going to go up at some point today. I had a chance to also visit Riot Games and check out Riftbound, their upcoming Magic the Gathering competitor. They had 4 trial decks and 2 mats that are conveniently zoned so I can see where everything is supposed to go. Walked me through the game in a nice 1.5 hour long demo. Had asked some questions of the creator there. It was really, really cool what I saw. That's going up at GameSpot. I think it's in edits right now, or will be in edits shortly. And along with that article will be 3 exclusive cards that I get to reveal, which is pretty neat. So that'll be up, should be up today. And then I also have an interview with the 007 First Light folks, my last of the 3 from IO Interactive's showcase. An article about Magic the Gathering Arena's Final Fantasy activation for Epic Game Store. Yuka Replay I went hands-on with. Sonic Racing Crossworlds I went on hands with. That's all Epic Game Store. MMORPG.com I will also be doing Shinobi. Went hands-on with that. That game slaps. Wushang Fallen Feathers, which I said FromSoft and I don't get along. Wushang and I really don't get along. That game is hard as hell. And then Moonlighter 2 for MMORPG, which is really neat. And then I also want to talk about, I'm going to write this up for GameSpot as well. Did you get over to see Ambrosia Sky?
No, I didn't, but I heard some people talking about it.
So Ambrosia Sky was made by Soft Rains. It was the one that Soft Rains, it was their first ever game. I found this game fascinating. So you're in space, you're cleaning up this fungus in this like colony cluster, and you're part of this scientific group who goes and collects like the corpses of these dead folks and puts as long as they consent to it, right? As long as they give their consent before they die to be part of this overarching project studying what's going on and why it's happening. There's also an added element that the character that you're playing at lived in this cluster and left it 15 years ago. So these are people that she is familiar with, right?
Yeah, this is great.
So it really struck me. So when at the end of the demo, when I get to who I need to collect, let's say, and I get their consent, and the animation plays to get their DNA to create the DNA strand that I'll be collecting. She just kind of, normally in games, when somebody's dying or you're doing something like that, you're just kind of standing there and it's happening. They made it a point to have her, and you're in first person, kneel down and put her hands like on her lap, right? Like on her, where you can see them crossed like this, showing a reverence and respect to death and the dead that I think video games could really use more of. It struck me so much. And when I said this to the developer, he was like, not many people have keyed up on that. So I'm glad. And that was the entire focus of our conversation. Cool. So that's going to be the angle from the GameSpot article. I just realized I'm really talking your ear off here. So that's it. That's all my stuff.
Appreciate it.
Big Man Fanelli on all socials. Come find me and let's talk about video playing trading card games. And there it is.
That reminds me, as you were mentioning some stuff from the PC gaming show. I'll maybe make a thread in the Discord or on Blue Sky or something where I ask people to send me the trailers from the last week that you feel either got missed or just your overall favorites. Because I think we're going to try to find a time to catch up on all the trailers we missed because we actually went to Summer Game Fest. Like that's if you don't want to know what's going on at Summer Game Fest, go to Summer Game Fest or Gummer Same Fest.
Same Fest.
Yeah, and it's really easy to miss out on stuff when you're actually
going to muster the courage to catch up on these games.
Exactly. I'm going to check some of the stuff out because their PC game show looks like it had some really neat stuff in it.
It did. I had an embargoed news piece for that show. I think it was that show from published by Punkel, who makes Vampire Survivors. The game alludes Berserk or Die, I think the name is, but basically you're a single character on a battlefield, and characters and enemies are coming at you from left and right, and the way you attack them is to slap your keyboard to the right to attack that way, slap your keyboard to the left to attack that way, and the more keys you slap, the more powerful your slash.
That was wild. Awesome. Holy shit, I love that.
But you got to check that out. They sent a GIF of like how you control it, and it looks like the dude's just Donkey Konga-ing his keyboard. It was so cool.
I'll give you more Donkey Konga inspired video games. Absolutely. That sounds incredible. I'm going to check this out. What game is this again? What is it?
Berserk or Die, I believe was the name of it. It was being published by Ponkel. So if you look up Ponkel PC Gaming Show, that should get you where you need to go.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, I'm going to try to track that down and have some fun with it. Let's see here. New poll question. Let's see. Are you going to play Splitgate 2, yes or no? Just curious. Simple question. Don't worry about any of the other stuff. Yes or no? You're going to play Splitgate 2? We'll talk about that on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, like I said, I'm going to try to get MindsEye going here pretty soon. We'll see, maybe like an hour out from from Blight Club, and then of course Blight Club does return with he's gonna look so cool. Rascal is back. He could finish it up today. There's a strong chance he finishes it up today, but it's like either today or next week. He wraps up Rascal, and that means it's gonna be Dan's turn soon. So we got to figure out what we're making him play.
I hope he's too cool to finish it this week, so he has to be cool next week.
That's what a real cool guy would do. I think so personally.
What a really cool guy would do.
And then so then tomorrow I think we're going to try to fit in a Switch 2 stream. Honestly, I might see about if we can move some stuff around so we can have a pretty lengthy stream of that, but we'll have to see how everyone's schedule's looking. At the very least, we'll play some Switch 2 stuff tomorrow, and then I think Friday we got plans for a Unprofessional Fridays and stuff like that. So cool. Game Best Mornings for the rest of the week. I look forward to seeing y'all for that. In the meantime, Jason Fanelli, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, man, and talk about video games. I super appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Glad you hit me up to be this first one back after SGF. I'd say it popped off like a confetti cannon. What about you?
I would say so as well. And maybe Dan Reichert also died because of this as well. Who knows? All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for going to giantbomb.com/join and supporting us. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Yummy like a gummy bear.